Hello everyone, good afternoon and welcome to today's Trading the Markets Live with the Live Trade Room. So hope you're all keeping well. Just to let you know, what we do over the course of this session is look for high probability trading opportunities. So we have a methodology that we use to identify high probability opportunities. Then we go through a bit of a process in terms of what is the best way to execute a trade in this market. So we have we have kind of a set of rules and principles that we look for. We want to stack the odds in our favor when we trade these markets, and we'll show you how we go about doing this. And then we enter a trade management phase where we look to remove risk quickly or even potentially book in profit on that trade, all with one purpose, and that is to make consistent returns when we trade these financial markets. So without further ado then, if I could, I was just looking at a couple of trades, and there is a couple of good high probability opportunities this afternoon. What I want to do, just draw your attention to, is firstly, we'll start with our risk warning. Please do just take a brief moment to familiarize yourselves with the risks involved in trading these markets. And there's been a major news event. In fact, there's been a number of major news events this week. Those of you that have been with us for the week will be fully aware. So that's our risk warning. So just before we begin, let's do a very quick review of the market moving news and see if there's any news flow that can impact the trades we're looking to take. So I'll bring up Forex Factory then. So today we've had the non-farm payroll and finishing the week with a really important news event. So on Tuesday we had the Bank of Japan. On Wednesday we had the FOMC. On Thursday, yesterday, we had the Bank of England, and now today we have the non-farm payroll. So four really significant sort of global market moving events, and we'll have a look at see how these events have actually impacted these markets. But it's just important to identify for the rest of the trading session. Want to draw your attention to these three events down here. Firstly, the non-farm employment change number. There was an expectation for 191,000 new jobs, and we actually saw 157. So we've obviously missed the mark by 34,000 jobs. It's not an insignificant amount. So we've got a slightly mixed expectations really on that number. We had a really strong ADP number on Wednesday, and we've seen a similar kind of negative figure just regarding the employment change number. However, the unemployment rate has reduced from 4% to 3.9%, so that is very much in keeping with expectations. And we've had an increase in average hourly earnings with the expectation 0.3, and that's exactly what we saw. So how do we, we look at the charts for some technical guidance, but how do we sort of manifest these figures when we see them released? And the reality is we've got two significant news events which are as per expectation, and one which has failed to meet its expectations. So all in all, it can add itself, it can add up to being a neutral to negative news event for the US dollar. So we may start seeing some dollar weakness start to creep in. We don't necessarily think that is likely to last for long. However, certainly for the remainder of the session, we need to be careful and make sure that if we trade dollar strength, that we do see dollar strength across the board, because we have had a bit of a movement in the US dollar over the last 2 or 3 days. Bearing in mind we've had the FOMC on Wednesday and we had the non-farm payroll today as well. So the only other major news event that we would need to be aware of, and we'll do this at 3 o'clock, is the ISM figure. So there's an expectation of 58.6, and really we just want to, it's a non-manufacturing figure. So really it's very likely to come in and around the expectations. So there's a gradual increase really over the last couple of years to the upside in terms of a bit of a trend. So anything around that level would be absolutely fine and very acceptable. So it's not expected to impact the markets too much. So that's a little overview of the news. So neutral to negative on the US dollar, just off the back of the news event, and I suppose the realities of trading these markets, you could have negative news, positive price action. You could have positive news, negative price action. So it's really, we want to get that information. We want to just take note of it and literally look to apply that logic to the markets. And what I mean by that is as follows. So let me just get up this up onto screen now. So what we can see is a little bit of indecision off the back of yesterday's really strong move, dollar strength move below this level, below the 1638, right the way down. A really nice strong move to the downside, but today's price action has been a little bit indecisive, and in actual fact we're kind of seeing a little bit of that across the board. We are still hovering around yesterday's lows, even though we do expect this market to push lower. The dollar yen, it looks like it has an expectation to roll over, but the last 2 trading days it has really struggled to do so. So we're likely to see potentially this market sort of well, it'll be interesting to see whether we break these lows and we start seeing this market push lower, or whether we actually get similar price action that we've seen the last couple of days, which has not been great. It's not been choppy, and we do have an expectation for this price to push higher eventually. So as far as trading conditions now, not great necessarily. Dollar Swiss quite choppy. The dollar CAD, now I'm sorry, there was one other piece of news actually impacting the Canadian dollar, which is very easy to disregard, and it's with regards to the trade balance figure. It was expected to be minus 2.3 billion, and it's actually minus 0.6. So the trade balance is actually better than what was perceived. So this was the expectation down here, and we've actually seen a print. So obviously that can lend itself to a little bit of positivity in the dollar CAD. And what we're going to do is we're going to identify one of these trades, or if some selling comes in to the US dollar and we start seeing across the board, we will look for potentially an opportunity to sell the dollar CAD, because it has the news supporting it. So with all the other markets, it's really quite choppy. It doesn't really give us those high probability trades. Same with the euro pound. But now there's 2 markets that do interest us, and really looking for a break, which we've just seen below the 129.26. So this is very likely to give us some opportunities for this market to push lower, and the same situation for the pound yen. So we're going to just move this down a little bit and see if we can capitalize on an opportunity in the pound yen also. So we'll have a look at those 3 markets. If some weakness comes into the US dollar, we might look at selling the dollar CAD, and if the strength in the yen continues, we might look at selling the euro yen and the pound yen. In addition to that, we've got a complete reversal of yesterday's move to the downside today now in the gold market. So choppy conditions there, not much happening in crude oil, and similar indecision really if we just scan across the global equities. So we do like the idea of these markets pushing higher. It's just right now they're not necessarily giving us fantastic opportunity, certainly not from a high probability perspective. Okay, so so we'll continue to just monitor those 3 trades. So what I'll do is I'll carve the page into 3, or the screen into 3. So let's slide this over the left hand side. We'll also have a look at the euro yen. We'll stick that into the middle. Okay, and the last one is the pound yen. So we'll just slide this back over here just a little bit. Okay, so you can see the strong move to the downside really already. We're getting a little bit of a pullback, which is not necessarily a bad thing. If we can pull back to these previous levels, 145.100 level, we're only 8 pips away, then it might give us a good opportunity to take this price lower to the downside. So so a couple of potential opportunities in the pipeline. So let's take a much bigger look. You can see why this is a level of support here. The market has bounced off it a few times. We've really struggled to close beneath that level. So if we do get a close beneath this low down here, it would be a very, very interesting opportunity to maybe look to sell this market. Now what we have to be careful about really when we trade this is that there's a low just a little bit below this level. But as you can see, it does represent quite the potential for the dollar to sell off. Certainly if we're seeing this across the board, might give us a really good opportunity. It would make sense really for the markets to effectively pull back and see if we get a little bit of a sell opportunity after 29.75 and not off the 80 level. So we prefer to keep a better eye on the 29.75 for the dollar CAD, and if price gets close to that, we'll have a look across the other markets and we'll see what opportunities may present themselves. We like the idea of this market pushing lower off this level, and that's kind of what we're seeing. So I just want to take note of this level just in here. So we're currently below that level, which is fine. But let's see this pullback. Let's see to what extent we've seen this market pull back. And what we can do as well is just take note of these lows. So we're talking about the 129.03 and the 129.12. So as a simple trade idea, we could look to, if we get a close below the 129.03 level, we could look to sell it and place a stop loss above that level if we decide to get in to the euro yen. And let's see how this stacks up with the pound yen. So we've had the flush lower beneath the low. So let's see. Yeah, if we were able to get this price pulling back to the 145.100 level, might not get that opportunity now. We're a little bit off that level. So yesterday we were able to capitalize eventually on a really strong trade in the pound dollar. We had to be a little bit patient though with it. I'll take you through it now in a second, just so you can see the thinking behind the trade. Okay, so now we've identified, we've been through a bit of a process in terms of trade identification. If we're interested in selling the US dollar, which is a potential, we looked at the news flow and we said yes, there is a potential for some neutral to negative So when we look at these markets now, we've been through the identification process. We've selected based on high probability opportunities on bigger time frames. Don't forget that we're trading the breakout of the daily highs and the daily lows. That enables us to stack the odds in our favor when we trade these markets. So for all of these reasons, we're quite happy with these trades that we've selected to focus on. It allows us to concentrate, to focus the mind on these three trades and try and go with the prevailing winds, which is with the marketplace. So now we're just getting this little break. Let's see if we get a close beneath this level. So just wait for that market to close, just in case it just pulls back. Okay, so we've closed at the low at basically the 129.01 level. So I'm just going to sell below, just marginally below. That's it. Let's see if we stay below that 99 level. Okay, let's get into this market to the downside then. A little bit later, just because of the 12900 level, but we can place our stop loss just firmly, just a little bit above that level, and now we can look for opportunities to trade the structure now. See if we get this price continuing lower. So let's wait and see what we can do with this market then. Very likely to get a pullback to the 129.03 and see how this trade opportunity unfolds. The 12900 has the potential to provide a little bit of resistance now once we trade below that level. So now let's just see if we get a nice move. So what we can do is we can look at the daily time frame, and don't forget we do like to take reference off the daily time frame. We just ask ourselves, does this market have the potential to move lower? And this is where like the ATR can come in. You can see that we are at significant lows. Really, you can see as we've moved into the summer, the volatility in this market has come right off. I know it goes through peaks and troughs, but we're currently in a bit of a trough at the moment. So we can see from here that the average true range for this market over the last 20 days, which is a significant period, is approximately 80 pips. So so when we take that information over and we see the high and the low, the 129.53 and the current low of 128.92, we can see that there is approximately 60 pip range in this market already. So we ask ourselves, if we know that the ATR on average is about 80 pips, it just means from a risk reward perspective we'd be happy to take about a 20 pip profit on this trade. So we don't want to be hanging it, looking to stick with this market for the best part of 40, 50 pips. The likelihood of that is possible, of course, but from a consistent perspective, it's not ideal. So we're getting this extending lower, and if we get a nice 20 pip move, we'll be happy to take profit at those lower levels. So the only thing that this market has going for itself to the downside is the fact that we've also got a structural failure of this recent pullback. We're now currently trading below that level, but also we've had a break below the this ascending line. So there's plenty of room beneath this low for this market to move. However, we will keep our potential returns in check and trade the structure, and if there's any signs of a bit of whipsaw or a bit of a turnaround in these markets, then we can take action accordingly. And that fits in with the management side, our ability to manage these trades. So let's have a look. So we're extending lower so far. So now what we want to see, and it's just the process that we go through when we trade these markets. Excuse me, let me get my pen up on screen just so that you can see this clearly. What we want the market to do now is to make a low, and we want to actually see a pullback, ideally to this level in here. What it will do is create a structural high, and then if we get the move further to the downside, making a new low, we can then bring our stop loss, which is here. We can start to bring it down to this level, take risk off the table as the market is moving in our favor, and look to trade these structures. And that's what we were ultimately able to do yesterday. For those of you that were able to join us, it became a really strong trade in the end. Now, we were happy with the profit that we saw on the trade. We're getting both of these markets just roll over of these levels. So there's a bit of momentum really in this market as things stand. As you can see, so nothing really happening with the dollar CAD. As you can see, we want to see this market close below the 29.82 level, but we're getting these markets extending lower as we speak. We'll let them go in the direction in which we're trading, which is to the downside. So, you know, if you look to stack the odds in your favor, which is the execution side, if you look to tick as many boxes as you can and look to go with the markets rather than counter trading them, which we know there's lots of gurus and educators there that will teach you how to do that. By far, it's a much easier process to actually look to go with the market and trade the trends, even on smaller time frames. So that is what we're looking to do, and as the market extends in our favor, so we got in at 128.98, so we're currently up about 13-14 pips, but we'll see if we squeeze down to the 80 level, maybe take profit at those levels, and then we'll see if we get a little bit more of a squeeze further lower. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to actually put in a take profit. So if we get a little spike through in this market, then we'll be happy to take profit on that. Okay, let me see. So So we'll have our take profit just around these levels, just a few more pips, and if we capitalize on that move, we'll still look to get into it again, and that would book us in a 20 pip winner in the euro yen. Now we would still like to trade this market to the downside as well if we can capitalize on that as an opportunity. So there we go, we've booked in that move, fairly straightforward, going with the actual market, and we're seeing the extension now in the pound yen. So of course we can look to take some other trades. What we'd like to do is to look for opportunities to buy the pullback. We obviously don't want to be getting into these markets at the lows. We want to maybe wait for an opportunity for this market to pull back to 144.77 and then see the extended move lower, perhaps with regards to the pound yen. So a good profitable trade in there, 21 pips in the end, and we are obviously getting the move. You see, we would have liked this market to actually squeeze a little bit higher. Okay, we did get the exhaustion at these levels, and we did get this market moving sideways for 7 or 8 minutes before we got the move. So probably a little bit of a missed trade here for exactly the same reason that we got in, but the technicals were a lot tighter, a lot neater in the euro yen, which is obviously why we wanted to trade it. So now we want to see a structure be created and see if we get a pullback and look to get into this market again. So this is how we sort of cherry pick these opportunities very carefully and look to trade them. So we've decided to just take some profit off the table really in that trade in the best part of about 10 minutes or so. And we're already getting the pullback in the pound yen. We're not necessarily going to be super aggressive with these markets, but we are going to look for multiple opportunities. Let's have a look at the so let's get up the average true range, and if there's any questions on anything I've covered, guys, don't hesitate to oh sorry, I've put it in twice. So let's take one of those off. So you can see 106 pips. So this market moves much bigger ranges than the euro yen. So just to compare and contrast, the euro yen moves around, no, sorry, that's on a minute time frame. So on a daily time frame it moves around 81 pips, and as you can see we effectively get a 25% increase on the pound yen, and that's fairly typical. So when we look at this market now, we can see the high is the 145.54 and the low is the 144.71. We can see that there's a 80 pip move already, so we're likely to see an extra 20 pips or so if we work with this indicator in line with the direction in which we're looking to trade these markets. So that can help us. That means we're not going to be hanging or waiting for a 40-50 pip move in this market. We're quite happy to do something similar to what we did in the euro yen. So when we zoom right down, we would really like to see a pullback to the 12900 level. If we could, that would be the optimum level to get into this market again to the downside. Now the pound yen, we've had a little bit of a rejection of this high, which is a level of support in this market. So what we can do here is take note of this low. Let's see if this market does break above those highs. Then it puts a little bit of a question mark in terms of the validity of a sell trade if we do get a break above this level. So we'll have to wait and see. Okay, so now we are in sort of pullback territory. Now we want to see how far these markets can pull back. So if we can get a pullback in and around this area up here, would be the optimum level to sell this market again from. Not sure we'll get that. It looked like this market was in a bit of a hurry when we captured it. And we just paused to actually get in below the 12900 level as well. So could have got in another sort of 5 pips or so, but still was a 21 pip winner. Okay, so now we're beginning to get these pullbacks. Just another quick look at the you see the dollar yen is really struggling to break the low, although the yen is really strengthening against the euro and the pound. So really strong pullback in the pound yen. So the pound yen is very, very known for its wilder market conditions. You get really strong impulses to the upside and to the downside. Great if you can trade them technically. Not so good if you get whipsawed. It's a little bit easier. So what do we want to happen in the euro yen? Well, actually, we'd like this market to come back, if we could, in and around this area to take the next leg to the downside. So we do have to be patient. Yes, we have booked in profit from here to here. So good profitable trade. Really small risk, so it's a 2-to-1 positive risk reward on the trade. We're able to capitalize on taking profit down at these lows. And now we're just getting the little bit of a pullback, which is very normal. It's what we'd expect to see. But now we want to see these lows, see if these are able to be broken or not. Because foreseeably, you could effectively look to do the same. The chances of another 20 pip winner down here are actually a little bit more reduced. But, you know, it can still be a 20 pip winner to the downside once more. So we'll take stock. We'll see how this trade performs, but we'd prefer it to pull back and look to capitalize on just a straightforward pullback if we possibly could. And the same situation for the pound yen, actually. So So trading support and resistance is it's a great way to trade these markets. What's not good is when these markets don't necessarily perform to those highs and lows, because when it does make the whole process that much easier. But when it doesn't, you've got decisions to make. Now, if this market pulled back a little bit further, like we saw yesterday in the pound dollar, let me take you forward to that and see if you can. So yesterday we were selling the pound yen, sorry, the pound dollar, should I say, and we'll zoom in nicely for you there. And this was the pullback we were looking to trade. So let me slide this all the way back. So this was the pullback we were looking to trade. We could take it into the smaller time frames if you want. Take a little look back. So for the same reason yesterday, this was exactly our trade idea. We suggested and we identified these lows in here, and we suggested that once this market made a low, and it was actually a structural failure to the upside, so we knew we were going to get a strong pullback. We actually broke above the 30.50 level, so then we were identifying this zone in here, and we were identifying if price comes back to this level, we would look for an opportunity to sell it, because it's clearly a level of support that then becomes resistance. The price is pushing higher, and we got the move, and it literally bounced off this level here, the 30.64. The level slightly higher is just 3 pips, so for all intents and purposes that's exactly the same. And then we got confirmed at a break. We got some nice downward moving price action, but the key bit for us was the price actually below the 30.50 level. Once we got this break, and we were in our live trade room for this trade, so for those of you that were able to join us, we're able to obviously capitalize on that trade as well. But what we're seeing here is just continuation to the downside. So we had to be a little bit patient with the move. So the thinking behind it was exactly or very similar to that of the pound yen today. If I take these off, we're able to trade the structure as things moved in our favor. And it wasn't until prices started to consolidate around these kind of levels that we decided to take profit. So we were able to capitalize on a good 30 pip move to the downside. So getting in, it was at the 30.48 level, and we were able to exit at the 30.17 level. And it was, I think it was in and around these areas in here. So we had to be super patient for the trade, and still look to trade the structures as the market moved in our favor. But then we were happy to capitalize on that. A bit of up and down price action going into the Asian session before we got the strong move lower initially, and then some choppy range bound price action kicking in thereafter. So that's the story behind the pound, and it's reflected really in the current price action that we're seeing today. So we are seeing continuation, but nothing of any significant capacity, and we still have this low sitting in here. I'll just make note of it for you so you can identify it. The 29.58 level, very likely to see these prices squeeze down to that level before it has a decision to make. So we got the straightforward little pullback. The only reason why we don't like this is because we're pulling back literally in the middle of nowhere. So I mean, that's just the way these markets unfold sometimes. So it is still very possible, if we get a break below that level, to to sell below the 128.74 and place your stop loss above the 128.87 if you perceive this market to continue further to the downside. Now it's very likely to happen over the shorter term, but the reality is prices are very likely to come back to in and around this kind of range, just off the back of the range for the day, which is roughly 81 pips. So if there's anything I've covered, guys, that you'd like, that you've got any questions on, then do feel free to utilize your chat box. I just posted a little note in there now. So yeah, if there is anything if you do wish to ask any questions, then don't hesitate. So let's now see if we do get that close beneath that level. So now we've had the close beneath this level and we're down at the 128.68. Let's see if we get a little pullback in this market. So as you can see, the dollar CAD is not interested in really doing an awful lot by the looks of it. Okay, so we are getting these markets flushing lower. I'm just conscious of the time, guys, because we've got our the live trade room traders as well in the other room through the live trade room. So what I might do is I might switch these rooms sooner rather than later and see if we can look for other opportunities to get into these to the downside. So we're able to capitalize on a good strong move already in the pound, in the euro yen, and we're looking to capitalize on another one. As you can see, the pound yen is really running away to the downside, and the euro yen is trying to follow with it, but we're just seeing prices just procrastinate a little bit around these kind of levels. So I'm conscious of the time, and also it's getting on a little bit in the trading day on a Friday, which isn't the most optimum time to be trading these markets, although I do appreciate we've just had the non-farm payroll numbers. Not a huge amount happening with the US dollar. It's strengthening, it's finding a bit of mild strength, but really the story has been largely about the yen. So we're getting some strength really come into this yen. All the other markets not really giving us great opportunities. Certainly they're not high probability trading opportunities, but that is what we're seeing in the yen pairs, which is obviously why we decided to trade them for the session. So we've had one good profitable trade. Maybe we'll be looking to capitalize on some more over in the live trade room. So for those of you that are sort of not aware of what we do, but we offer a number of live trade rooms every day. So if you're genuinely interested in trading the markets and you kind of like our price action approach based on support and resistance and being able to read markets like it is a book effectively, then please do feel free to join us. There's the 14-day free access to our live trade rooms, so you're very welcome to jump on without any commitment of any kind. And if you decide to continue your access, do have a look and find out how much it would be to join us month in, month out, and you'll be pleasantly surprised, we're sure. So do click on the link below and just read. You can obviously have a read through the information there for you, and you'll be able to get instant access to joining us in our live trade room through the live trade room. So we'll continue to trade these markets for the remainder of the session. So on that note, these markets are just hanging around these lows, so we're going to make the switch now. It is getting close to 3 o'clock. So thank you as always for joining us. Please do subscribe and like the video below if you possibly can, and subscribe to the channel as well. We do put up daily trade watch videos and stuff where we identify some high probability trading opportunities every day, and lots of other bits and pieces. So do subscribe to our channel, and you can also connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and LinkedIn. The details are all there up on screen. Okay, so all that's left for me to do now is to thank you very much for joining us. We hope you've been able to capitalize on a good winning trade today, even though we've only had to take one trade, but at least it was a profitable trade, and with some potential additional profitable trades to be made as well. So hopefully we'll see you over in the live trade room very shortly. So the information is in the description box below. So thank you very much for joining us. Do have a great weekend, and just for your information, we're actually taking a little bit of a break now from our live trade rooms, largely due to summer trading conditions. So when we're back, we'll be notifying you in due course, and we'll be trading the markets through to the end of the year. So from everyone here at the live trade room, take care, have a good summer, enjoy the summer break now, and we'll speak to you soon. For everyone here, bye for now.